Hi, I'm Bernadette Smith, keynote speaker and writer. Welcome to 5 Things, where I bring good vibes to DEI. There's plenty of bad news out there. This show is about the good stuff, real progress, real stories, and ideas to help you make your work and life more inclusive. Your proof of positive change. So last year, I wrote 40 editions of the 5 Things newsletter, which meant I shared over 200 good vibes in DEI stories. So that's a lot. And we're going to keep needing those good vibes to get through what's already kind of a crazy year. I really do believe that we're going to need each other. I think it's a beautiful thing. And let's get into it. So the most clicked story last year was from the edition Uprising, in which I wrote about Bojangles offering Spanish language ordering across its app, website, kiosks, and drive-through. They're offering that at over 400 locations. So really great news from Bojangles. That was also the most opened edition of 5 Things, with nearly 68% of readers opening that edition. And in that edition, I wrote about how I was facilitating a workshop. And one of the attendees in that workshop actually raised his hand and said, "What's the point of this? Leadership still sucks." And we had a really great conversation as a group after that. But let me tell you, it's something that I think a lot of people are thinking this year. And I'm going to continue to bring some good vibes to hopefully give you some ideas of what to do when leadership still sucks, or for leaders to use so they can suck a little bit less. All right, so the most shared edition from last year was called Patience. And in Patience, I actually wrote about how last year required so much patience with business being slow due to the anti-DEI movement. And it meant that last year I had a lot of time to play pickleball, but pickleball also requires patience. So I wrote about being a patient pickler, and that was the most shared edition last year. The most unsubscribed edition of 5 Things last year was called Commonalities. And during that edition, I wrote about talking to strangers on a train and how we can do that. But, had the most unsubscribes. But when I look back at all of the stories from last year, the theme that really stands out is that this is all about inclusion you can use. It's about finding the win-win and keeping inclusion practical, because it doesn't need to be overwhelming. It doesn't need to be hard. So that is always going to be my goal with the 5 Things newsletter. So let's get to it. Thank you, as always, for everything you do to build an inclusive world. So here's the first good vibe from this week. Congress passed the BABES Act, which stands for the Bottles and Breastfeeding Equipment Screening Enhancement Act, which strengthens protections for parents traveling with breast milk, formula, and feeding equipment. This law requires that the Transportation Safe Security Administration, TSA, close enforcement gaps left by previous legislation. And that led to inconsistent, often humiliated screening experiences for people who lactate. That meant that breast milk, formula, and equipment was often mishandled, contaminated, unnecessarily discarded. And all of this disproportionately affects women and folks who are gender diverse. So the BABES Act is looking to systemically fix those problems through training, through enhanced measures. So check out the BABES Act. Great, good vibes to start this year. So the U.S. Department of Transportation has formally endorsed an advanced female crash test dummy designed to better represent how people with female bodies respond in vehicle crashes. So this new dummy, which manufacturers can now use, it has more sensors, it has more lifelike biomechanics, which is going to collect more detailed injury data. So the previous model was based on male body data, scaled down, and often not even tested in the driver's seat. This has led to women's risk of serious injury in some crash types documented as much as 73% higher than that of people with men's bodies, with male bodies. So when you're designing anything at all, think about how you can design and build for all kinds of users. And the way you do that, of course, is to involve all kinds of users in the product development and in focus groups, in testing, involve all different kinds of folks so you can have the biggest impact with whatever it is you're designing. So South Korea, for the first time, has started collecting same-sex relationship data in their census. So the 2025 population and housing census allowed folks to select spouse or cohabitating partner on the national survey instead of being forced into an other category that essentially erased those partnerships. So this meant that same-sex couples were essentially misclassified and excluded from policy relevant statistics that could impact them. When we have data about different types of groups, then we can better meet the needs of those groups. We can better create policy that reflects those communities' individual lived experiences. And, very few countries actually allow same-sex couples to self-identify on the census. So this is a pretty big deal. And again, this data can shape policy that can really challenge systemic bias in national planning. So great, good vibes out of Korea. Here's another story that gave me some hope this week. So in the UK, the charity Broken Biscuits has opened what is believed to be the world's first dog park designed specifically for disabled dogs. It offers spaces where pups using wheelchairs and other mobility devices can safely play. This is a 7-acre park. That's a really big park. I don't know many dog parks around here that are that big. And it includes a racetrack and a skate rink for wheelchair training, a driver's test course to help dogs adapt to their new wheelchairs. It has cozy little shelters for shy, neurodivergent dogs, maybe. That's where my dog would be hanging out. It has a cafe for owners. And the charity, it also homes disabled dogs and loans mobility equipment to owners who cannot afford it. What I love about this is that it's intentional accessibility. And it benefits the whole community because how many folks do you think are showing up at that dog park, maybe not knowing other dog folks or maybe not knowing other dog owners with disabled dogs, and they can build community around this. I love how intentional accessibility can really benefit everyone. Another good vibe. California has returned 17,030 acres of ancestral land to the Tule River tribe. That is almost as much land as has ever been returned to a tribe. So the parcels of land which are adjacent to the tribe's existing reservation had been used as ranch land, but they were purchased with support from the state, some private philanthropy dollars, and also the Conservation Fund. And then they were returned to tribal stewardship. So this land return, it includes diverse ecosystems. It's going to enable the tribe to restore traditional ecological practices. It's going to enable the tribe to reconnect landscapes, protect watersheds, support reintroduction of native species such as Tule elk and beavers. And this is amazing because when there is centuries of systemic dispossession, systemic oppression, it can be really hard to have dignity. But returning the land, it supports indigenous sovereignty. It leads to more dignity. It leads to more cultural continuity and even ecosystem health. So health vibe to go for you this week, a recommendation of a media to check out. So read Emily St. James's novel, Woodworking. It's her debut novel. You would never know it. It's a great book. It's about a sweet teacher-student friendship. A great, easy read, lots of interesting characters. It goes down easy, good energy, and I think you'll like it. So check out Woodworking by Emily St. James. And folks, if you don't already get the 5 Things newsletter, you can subscribe at 5thingsdei.com. Thanks for listening to 5 Things, Good Vibes in DEI. If today's stories gave you hope or sparked an idea, share this episode with a colleague or a friend. And if you want to spread more good vibes, leave a quick rating or review. It helps others find their proof of positive change.